Welcome to this edition of Northwest Real Estate Forum. I'm your host, Patricia Wangsness. Our passion is to help you understand the art, science, and timing of real estate by bringing you experts with up-to-date information about what is impacting your biggest asset, your home. Our guest today is Bellevue attorney John Farver. John has been practicing law for 24 years. His practice revolves around assisting consumers solve financial problems often brought on by the current financial downturn. While there are many different ways to deal with a financial crisis, often solutions to their difficulties is bankruptcy. Welcome, John. John, what is bankruptcy and what does it mean to consumers in today's world?
Patricia, bankruptcy today for consumers is a way for, as the code puts it, an honest debtor to get a clean, fresh start. Somebody who is underwater financially and can't see a way to climb out. There are two types primarily of bankruptcy for consumers. The first one is a Chapter 7, and that's what everybody thinks of as a bankruptcy. It's a total liquidation. You discharge all of your unsecured debts, and 9 times out of 10 you keep most of your property. So you wipe out debts that don't have any security, such as a home loan or a car loan, and that usually puts you in a position to then catch up on your car loan or your home loan, or at least get a fresh start financially. A Chapter 13 bankruptcy is also a consumer bankruptcy, and it is more of a consumer repayment plan, kind of like a Chapter 11 is for businesses. You go to the court and say, I want to pay as much as I can of my debts over a 3 to 5 year period. And this is how much money I have left over every month out of my net income once I've paid all my costs of living and the debts I'm going to pay outside the plan. You say, this is how much I have to give the bankruptcy court every month. The bankruptcy court takes that and prorates it and distributes it to your creditors. And then at the end of the plan, which minimum of 3 years, maximum of 5 years, whatever's left to the creditors is discharge. Unsecured creditors again. And the difference between a secured creditor and unsecured creditor is a secured creditor has security. It has collateral. It has your house. The two main ones are your house and your car for a consumer. All the rest, your personal loans and your bank credit cards, are unsecured loans, so they can get discharged. A Chapter 13 often isn't recommended by most consumer bankruptcy attorneys, but there are certain circumstances where it really is a better way to go. And also the bankruptcy laws changed in 2005, and now if you make over a certain amount, even though you can't pay your bills or you're way underwater financially, you'll be forced to file as Chapter 13. There's an income level that you can, and it changes quarterly, but if you make more than the mean income of your area, you'll be forced to file as 13, even though you'd really rather file a 7. So those are the two main consumer bankruptcies, and that's what most people think of when they want to file a bankruptcy. They want to talk to an attorney about it. And they're both, Chapter 7, of course, is always the preferred way to go. But a Chapter 13, other than the income restrictions, is also a good way to catch up on back car payments or house payments, because once you file a bankruptcy, all action against you to collect is stayed. And the bankruptcy court then can say, on your house payment, you have, 8 months of arrears. Your whole plan payment is going to go towards those back house payments. You still have to make your current house payment outside the plan, and then you'll catch up in however many months it takes. And that ends up that your unsecured creditors don't get anything, but still you get the opportunity to save your house if that's what you want to do.
What are the indicators that tell you when a client is a good candidate for bankruptcy?
Well, I look at a couple things. Of course, you look at their income, you look at their circumstances, and people who come to me for bankruptcy advice have had some changed circumstance in their life, usually fairly recently, that they're struggling, a spouse loses a job, a person loses their job, their house is being foreclosed on, something that puts them in deep financial stress or crisis. And then I look at what the total amount of their unsecured debt is, and what their intentions are. Do they want to save their house? Do they want to save their car? And what can we do about the unsecured debt? We were talking earlier about people who come to me and also ask me to negotiate with their lenders and see if the lender will take a smaller percentage or different payment plans, different interest rates, and yeah, we can do that short of filing bankruptcy, if all of your creditors will go along with it. Unfortunately, you find out lots of times that, if you have 5 creditors, 2 of them might go along with with a reasonable reduction of your debt, and the other 3 won't. And so that's when you kind of, in my mind, when I recommend bankruptcy. But I usually recommend bankruptcy only to people who don't have another way out of their financial problems. And quite frankly, there's not very many ways out. Since the economic downturn and this recession we've been having, banks are a little more willing to negotiate repayment terms on unsecured debt.
What does bankruptcy cost, and when do clients have to pay, since obviously money is short at that time?
Well, in my firm, and I can't talk for all firms, because you certainly can go to a pretty cut rate place and have it much less expensive. I charge $2,000, which includes the court filing fee and all the costs of the services I need to buy to get your schedules ready and have you file and get through the bankruptcy. It has to be paid before we file, before we do any work, and the reason for that is once you file bankruptcy, I become an unsecured creditor just like your credit card holders. Knowing that that's going to happen, you have to pay up front. A Chapter 13 bankruptcy is more expensive, but most bankruptcy attorneys for Chapter 13 will take their initial fee up front, say $2,500. And then, but the thing about a Chapter 13 is you can become called back into the court anytime during that 3 or 5 year period to make changes to the plan or ask this court to allow your client to have more of the money that he needs to take care of an emergency, like problems with your automobile or something. The problem with the 13 is you've committed all your excess income to the bankruptcy court for this long period. So yes, if you have an unplanned, as they say, the engine in your car blows up, when you go back to the court and say, can I not make my next 3 plan payments and use that money to fix my car? And they may or may not go for it. Oftentimes they do. But then, my job gets more difficult. I have to go in and make the motion and do the negotiating. But then I make an application to the plan to get paid, and the court decides whether what I'm charging is reasonable and whether it can be paid out of the plan, whether it's going to stretch the plan out too far or whatever. So that's on a 13, but on a Chapter 7, pretty much standard, pretty much formulaic. And so when you're going in pretty much how much it's going to cost. So you charge a flat fee, and the nice thing about that is your client knows up front exactly how much it's going to cost.
Thanks, John. Thanks for watching this edition of Northwest Real Estate Forum. Whether you are buying, selling, or sitting on the sidelines, keep watching for important information on topics that are impacting your biggest asset, your home. For more information on this and other shows, please visit us at northwestrealestateforum.com. Get your free copy of the National Association of Realtors 2010 Profile of Home Buyers and Sellers. This in-depth report tells you who is buying and selling across the United States and why. I'm your host, Patricia Wangsness. See you next time.